Yeah, I was hoping that on the heels of Cyrus's big talk about mobility and his follow-on from the mobility that we'd get most everybody from that crowd in here, but that didn't happen. So that's all right. I'm Lane Patterson. I'm the founder of Highway Ventures, and super excited to have the opportunity to talk about drones, talk about advanced mobility, and talk about the future of logistics here in not just Northwest Arkansas, but we're going to talk a little bit about Dallas, and we're going to talk a little bit about how we're going to change the world with DroneUp. So have Chad Mercado with me. Chad, why don't you give us a little bit of your background and a little history?
Yeah, so I fell face first into drones. It's kind of weird how it all worked out. It's funny that I'm sitting here talking to you guys today, but I was a teacher at BB High School. I started in 2012. I had a little bit of tech background at Verizon before that, but I was teaching computer technology or computer engineering technology, which is operations, networking, diagnostics, real basic, like A+ level stuff, if you guys know what that is. And I was young and dumb, and my principal came up to me one day and asked if I knew anything about drones, and I said no, and had no clue what he was talking about. And then fast forward, his thing was, I watched this documentary, and man, this stuff is cool. And that led into him asking me if I felt like we could create a viable high school course that kids could actually take. And at that time, now you can get your Part 107 certificate that we'll talk about a little bit today. You couldn't even get that then. It didn't exist. We were flying under completely different rules. In fact, when I first met with the FAA, they said, you can teach whatever you want, just don't fly, which is kind of funny to think back in hindsight. But that obviously has changed now. We did put together a course. That course became a 3-level course. And then at the same time, I was coaching baseball. So we had this parallel career thing going between drones and baseball and all this stuff. And then Grant Brewer, who is actually in the audience today, called me one day because we had actually worked together on the curriculum that created the 3-level course for drones for the high school class that had also got out to the rest of the country as well. And he said, dude, there's this company in Northwest Arkansas called DroneUp, and I think it's time that you got interested in this kind of thing. Talked to a couple guys there, and here I am today. So it's kind of a weird story, but I'm super glad to be here, and DroneUp's been pretty good to me.
I love the weird story too, by the way. As one of the things that I do is I hire a lot of founders into new businesses. And when we look at CEOs, we really look for what we call distance traveled. We look for people that have well-rounded history. There's a lot of math out there. I see students too, so I'll impart some knowledge here. There's a lot of history around things that, for example, Ivy League graduates are not more likely to be startup CEOs than people who have lived overseas. So there's a lot of this distance traveled stuff. So I actually love your story, Chad. I love the distance traveled. I love the baseball coach. I love the education. I think it's awesome.
Thanks.
So why don't you give us kind of the DroneUp 101? Who is DroneUp? What does DroneUp do?
Yeah, sure. So this whole thing started as a contactless COVID test delivery system. That's really how it started back in, I guess, 2020. And we were literally taking off-the-shelf Mavics and Phantoms and things like that. This is before my time, and basically, creating a way to drop these COVID kits. And we had people out literally manually flying these aircraft to people, which is hilarious to think about now. So they took that opportunity and wrote a white paper, and Walmart got a hold of it and established this partnership. So they actually are invested in us and in our success. Walmart is. So fast forward from that time. And we were able to launch in the fall of 2021. We started in Farmington, and now we've got 3 locations in Northwest Arkansas between Farmington, Bentonville, and Pinnacle Hills. And what we do is we deliver goods and groceries and all kinds of different products for Walmart. We're out to 3 miles. We deliver up to 10 pounds. And we'll get all to it, but there's all kinds of cool stuff that's been developed. It's been cool to see us come from people having no idea what we did and thinking that we were either selling drones or testing them or demoing them, to now people are relying us on every day to get either missing products or groceries or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, when we first met, we talked a little bit about one of your initial students and how he's been hired in Dallas now to be a drone pilot. turns out Dallas is kind of the current center of the drone universe. Talk to me a little bit about Dallas and what it means to the drone world.
Sure. So first on Tristan, and we got plenty of students here. He's one of my all-time favorite kids, and he actually got his Part 107 when he was 17 years old, and he's 24, 25 now, and was in IT. And we've stayed loosely in touch for the last few years, and he called me 2 months ago and said, we were catching up on what we were doing, and I said, send me your resume, and pass it along. And then I stepped out, and he totally wowed those guys in Dallas, and he'll be starting as a flight operator, and at the beginning of this month. So it's the first kid I've had like that, and he's one of the kids I really trust too. So to get in there and really knock it out, so I'm excited for him. Dallas, so it's a big deal right now. So us, Wing, Zipline, everybody is in Dallas right now to get this thing off the ground and see really how this thing is going to scale for Walmart and probably other providers too. Our focus obviously is on how we're going to scale for Walmart. So the big thing with Dallas is we've got to complete an environmental assessment, and that's big money and all that stuff, and it goes directly to the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration. All of our new things are happening there, and then so we've got some testing stuff going on in Virginia. Then it goes straight to Dallas, and then we get it here in Northwest Arkansas. But we've got 11 hubs there. They're going to get our DBX ecosystem first. They're actually getting our Uncrew system that's going to be installed for new software, proprietary software. It starts tomorrow, that rollout. So huge things happen in Dallas.
Sweet. So earlier talked about the 107. I want to talk a few minutes to demystify all the numbers and language here. So tell me, what is the 107?
So basically what that means is if I'm going to operate commercially, which means be compensated. So everything, and Dr. Ham, this is actually a Part 107 question, so we got it. But if somebody's going to give you football tickets, right, for you to come out and shoot video for a wedding for your drone, to operate legally, you'd have to have a Part 107 certificate. So that's what it allows you to do. I can take my drone and I can operate safely and I can make money.
Okay. So tell me about the, what I've learned about drones is they don't like to put their numbers in order. So our next one is going to be the 44807.
All right, and I might jump around.
Jump around all you want. I just think it's funny that we go from 107, the next most important is 44807.
Yeah, I find it funny too.
It's a big jump.
Yeah, I just now have all these memorized, by the way. So Part 107 was written for exactly what I just mentioned. To take it.
By the way, these are written by the FAA.
FAA, yes, this is all FAA. So the same, agency that is writing the rules for XNA and all these people, the 737s flying in the sky, we're working with them as well. So we have, Part 107 was written for exactly what we mentioned, for you to go out individually and make money with your drone. You might have a visual observer involved, things like that, but you've got one remote pilot in command, and he is operating that, or she is operating that Part 107. What 44807 allows is exemptions, and basically, a whole lot of stuff short. That would basically allow us to say we're going to do these things outside of Part 107 and not have to go exactly through a waiver system every single time. Because we have truly maximized Part 107. It was never meant for it to be like a drone delivery platform where, like, if you're a hub leader for DroneUp, you're managing 12 flight operators, visual observers, flight crews, you're delivering packages, all those things. It was never meant for that. And so we have really maximized, and that's one of the cool things about DroneUp is we could have waited for, Part 108, Part 135, 44807, the number suit that we mentioned, but we didn't. And that's really what attracted me to DroneUp is that we were very focused on completing successful and safe deliveries within those confines and not just waiting around until the regulations kicked in because, the FAA is great, but they're not known for their speed when it comes to developing these regulations. And that's led to thousands and thousands of live deliveries with our customers.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys remember the slide that Cyrus put up or if you were in that presentation, but he talked a little bit about the economy of scale that comes with drone delivery. And right now it's essentially 1-to-1. So one operator per one drone. When that gets to 7-to-1, I think was the number that he put up there, that's when it really becomes economically viable. What is the number soup that's going to get me from one operator to one drone to multiple drones per operator.
Sure. So that's where 135 comes in, and we are doing both right now because, like I mentioned with regulations, what we've got to do, basically the same things that we're having to do with a 135 is the same for the 44807. Eventually, it's going to reveal itself as to which it makes more sense for us from a scale and business side for us to really go down. So I think that's been a great call. That's a VPC level thing to where they've said, hey, we're going to attack both of these because we've got to do the same things. And then we'll be able to figure out what Part 135 does. It allows us to be an air carrier. So what that means is we are no longer operating under Part 107. We get to tell the FAA what we can do, how we can fly. So that means increased package weight, removal of beyond visual line of sight. Right now we do a great job. We're big on monitoring the airspace, which has been the direction from the FAA. When we first started, it was you got to see the drone no matter what. Never miss. You can't let it leave your eyeballs. And because we've had so many successful flights, they pulled back on that a little bit to where we're monitoring airspace, and that will be a function of 135 also. So the air carrier status is a huge deal. That is literally all of our efforts are going towards that as an organization right now. If you're not operating a hub and delivering live flights, you're probably working on 135 and full 4807 in some capacity.
I don't know if any of you have obtained drone delivery here in town, but one of the hallmarks has always been, your drone's going to be there soon when the van pulled up front.
Yeah.
So, there was always a line of sight capability.
Sure.
So as we go to the beyond visual line of sight, or
Yeah.
BV losses, they like to say, what's involved with getting the FAA to buy in on that?
Sure. Safe flights. That's been the thing is showing what we can do. And everybody knock on wood with me. We've got thousands. They told me not to give hard numbers on this, but thousands and thousands of live flights that have been successful. And they've also had technical issues, right? That's what our pilots are really for, to be able to know exactly what to do, when something goes wrong, how to do it, and to perform as an operator. So, but yeah, that's the big thing is live flights. And then as we go to 135 and 44807, what will happen is as we prove that we can do something safely. Once we apply for Part 135, we are locked into that operation. So we do not deviate from that operation. Now in the testing environment, we deviate from that operation and we can start doing things to where we say, hey, we've got 100 or whatever hours under operating this way, and we want to add that to our Part 135, and that's how we're going to operate now. Because remember, we established with them what we do to operate successfully.
Awesome.
That's a process, right?
One of the things I love about the DroneUp model and the conversations we always had was that DroneUp kind of embraced ambiguity.
Yep.
That one of the reasons that DroneUp was successful was because the end story still isn't known. We don't know exactly what that model looks like. As you really embrace that ambiguity, do things like deal with dogs in backyards and unexpected things that maybe weren't part of the FAA's plan. How are you guys going to scale this?
Yeah, so the biggest thing with that is being able to mitigate risk, right? So our pilots do an awesome job, and our hub leaders do a great job every single day. They're going through the different risk factors to make sure that they mitigate that risk, because literally every flight, we talk about having a sea level focus, every flight is our biggest flight, and that's just how they approach it from the human side. And we've got tons of things, whether it be multiple SIM card carriers. We operate with several different LTE carriers because that's actually what gives our connection to the aircraft. So it's not just like on T-Mobile. We've got T-Mobile, AT&T, Verizon, so that mitigates that risk on loss of connection. The winch is made to where if a dog or whatever, a kid comes out and pulls on that winch, the line just reels out altogether so it doesn't have control of the aircraft. So there's tons of things already done. What is going to scale us is the ecosystem, and probably the headliner of that ecosystem is our Uncrew software. We have been operating with FlightOps, which has been great since we started, but that Uncrew is in-house proprietary, provides a closed feedback loop. So if Lane is my guy that can fix it, I just call Lane and say, hey, I lost connection or we got this going on, and now we can fix that software in-house. And of course, we're not paying somebody else for it. So our big mission, that again, Uncrew is a huge headliner with that, and there's other things involved as well. But at capacity, we're going to get this thing down under $7. And when that happens, scale is a huge deal, and we've got the playbook for it.
Awesome. So shifting maybe away from the number and alphabet soup and the technical side, tell me a little bit about the usage patterns. Take an area. There's one not far from here in Rogers. Mm-hmm. I love to sit at the taco place. I can watch football, eat a taco, drink a beer, and watch drones come and go. It's like the best. Yeah, I see nods. Like
yes.
You can do that from Marabella's too.
Yeah, you can. Absolutely.
There you go.
Yeah.
So you want to entertain out of town friends. You're like, we can watch football and drink beer and watch drones. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the use patterns. Who's using it? How far are you going? Is it one guy using it 100 times a day, or 100 people using it at one time a day?
So this is one of my favorite things to talk about, right? Because it's real human factors involved, and we have really impacted some people's lives with this system, which I think that's what everybody wants to do with their careers and jobs and stuff like that, have some value. When we first started, we were out to 1 mile. That's it. We're now out to 3. So our footprint has expanded dramatically. But in that, the common orders were, hey, let me get a monster, let me get a banana, let me get a lime because it's 25 cents or whatever it is. And why are people ordering that, right? They don't really need a banana. They want to see the drone, or they've got, the in-laws are in town and they're like, watch this. It's a parlor trick, right? So that has evolved from just a show-off thing to these families ordering hundreds of times, same families, ordering over 100 times within the last year. So they're using it on a daily basis. I think the family here in Rogers is, I checked before, and they're at like 167 orders in like the last 365. So that's just a lot of orders. And that family in particular, there's actually a USA Today article on them. She homeschools, the kids are awesome. And so she just orders breakfast or whatever they need. And when you talk to them, the coolest thing is when you ask them, what do you guys order? They say whatever we need. And that's just that's a cool feeling to be a part of.
That's interesting. So for now, the service is essentially no extra cost.
Totally free, which helps the orders, right?
Is that the plan for that to stay that way?
No. So right now, it is way more important for us to get those orders and get those deliveries than it is to make money. So like you mentioned scaling before, it takes 3 of me to fly 1 flight. Eventually, with Uncrew software and all the things we have, it's going to take 1 of me to fly 5 birds and then 7 birds and then 10 birds and those kind of things. And that gets you to the scale also. And those are the multipliers that drive down that $7 cost as well, right? So, the original question again, I just wove out of it. So
you answered it great.
Okay, great.
Because I don't even remember what it was.
Cool. All right. Well, you guys remind me later.
Yeah. So, what can you and can't you deliver?
Yeah. So basically, one of our flight operators actually explains this awesomely. He says, if you can get it onto a plane, we can basically deliver it. So think about TSA restrictions and things like that. No flammables, those kinds of things. But everything else we're delivering. So there's so many things. I mean, Taco Tuesday orders is one of my favorites when somebody actually orders every single thing they need, including a pound of meat, tomato, guacamole, onions, cheese, like all that kind of stuff. What's that?
Tequila?
I can't wait. So on that. So people used to come by the hub and be like, you guys delivering alcohol yet? Like they'd be like real sheepish about it. And I think it's going to be a huge safety thing. I think communities are going to love it because, if high school kids, earmuffs, but if I have 2 beers and then, I shouldn't be driving, so if I can get drone delivered, that's awesome, and to refill for the folks over or whatever. So prescription and alcohol is huge game changers for us. We can talk about the healthcare stuff a little bit later, but that's all a part of the equation. As you guys probably know, you can't do alcohol delivery in Arkansas. So again, regulation, there's a lot of things that happen, but we are not, we're very aware of that being a big deal.
Interesting. Yeah, I was going to ask about the prescription. I know Walmart just rolled out a prescription delivery service.
Yeah.
Is there a plan for DroneUp to be part of that?
So I had a conversation with a guy who he's not in the know yet, but he's going to get in the know. That's kind of his thing. So it's interesting you ask me that. So I don't have the information on that, but that's like a parking lot. We'll see what happens there.
Okay. What's has anybody in here done drone delivery? What did you order?
I've ordered hamburger buns. I've ordered Diet Coke. I've ordered pizza.
Okay.
Are you here locally around
Bentonville.
Bentonville? Okay, so store 100.
They
Yep,
deliver it right at my grill.
Yep.
that's awesome.
Yep. I'm just curious. What do you think the number one delivery item is?
Oh, so it depends on, so I obviously can see all the numbers. It depends on the month. When we got milk, it was a huge deal. We're delivering dozens and dozens of half gallons of milk now, which is what I would get. I've got 2 kids, and I'm out of milk every day. So, yeah, milk is a big one. Bananas is actually still a big one, but it's no longer 1 banana. It's 6 bananas. Eggs is a huge one, and that surprises a lot of people because you think eggs, they're going to break. And we've got an intelligent winch system, and it comes down, and literally the fall, when it comes down, it just places the package. We drive our bosses crazy because we call it drop, and they hate that because it doesn't actually drop, but that's what we say, drop it, because it is just nice and gentle. And our damage rate, that's one of the big things from Walmart that they care hugely about on the customer satisfaction side, is the damage rate. And we are well under 1% on the damage rate of our products, which has been a cool accomplishment.
Yeah, pro tip, if you want delivery, you can actually tell them to deliver it to your backyard in the notes. So we like to set up the chairs, we order dog treats, and we just have people over. It's an awesome show.
It's a neat thing.
So going away from the Walmart thing and really focusing back, what are the differences between the Walmart model and the Amazon model on the drone side?
Yeah, so we get this question a lot because when I was still in education, we were teaching. It was all about what Amazon is going to do in 5 years, this, and in 5 years that kind of thing. And I know they've hit some bumps and some things, and they're still doing Amazon Prime Air. It's still very much a thing, and I would never underestimate them ever. Like, I'm sure they're going to be hugely successful still. What I can speak to is what we did and how it has been beneficial to our operation, which, and this is, again, what attracted me. I listened to our CEO, Tom Walker, because I was making a huge jump between, 10 years of education and this coaching career to saying, we're going to move to NWA and have a complete and total career change. So I listened to a lot of things. Tom Walker was on podcasts and things like that. And all of the things that I had heard about in education on the why not, as far as like why drone delivery hadn't taken off, while these other applications hadn't taken off, I felt like Tom Walker was actively solving those problems and getting DroneUp off the ground and in the air instead of waiting. And again, think back to the regulations and all those things. And they had figured out how to do it safely. And a lot of that had to do with redundancy, which when I say redundancy, I'm talking about something's going to go wrong. It's technology, right? So what's your redundancy for your motors? What's your redundancy for your LTE connection? I mentioned the SIM cards before, GPS, parachute, all those kinds of things. And they've really built on that. And we've really been able to outsource those things. None of those things were in-house. Our aircraft came from Watts Innovations in the DMV area. Our flight software came from Flight Ops. So we outsourced all these different functions, and then we hired people who believed in what we were doing. And that allowed us to buy us time, essentially, to get us to our ecosystem, which is what we're all excited about right now, which is the Uncrew, the new winch system that we've developed, the DBX ecosystem. So that's really what's been a cool thing is we got up in the air, we started doing it, we identified problems, we scaled out, scaled in, and now it's all about figuring out that $7 delivery fee.
Oh, we'll go to questions in a minute.
Oh, okay.
I was ready.
But you know what? Let's go with it.
You mentioned Watts. With Watts going out of business,
Sure.
What's the next platform that you guys are going to go to?
Yeah, so we are partnered up with a company called Blue Flight out of Michigan. And I mentioned, I've been in the space in 2014, 2015. You guys can Google this stuff. Blue Flight is worth the Google. It's pretty awesome. That is the kind of aircraft that when we hear about these futuristic, we're going to do this and it's going to fly this far, that's the kind of aircraft that gets me excited. It is sweet. And I've gotten to see it. I haven't gotten to see a live demo yet, but it is operating and it is in our testing phases and all those things right now. What we're doing right now with the watch aircraft that we're going to continue to fly is we've moved a lot of that maintenance side and those kind of things, which, because again, technology, a lot of that has moved in-house and with another partner that we've got.
Awesome. So talk to me a little bit about the other applications for drones. Delivery is great. We all like our Diet Coke at the grill. Police, fire, search and rescue. How are drones going to change those industries or those capabilities?
Yeah, so I mentioned to you the other day, back in probably 2018 or 2019, I sat in on a thermography course, which was pretty awesome. Students ask your teachers for it. It's a really cool application. But the North Little Rock Fire Department was in there with us, and we were actually here in Rogers doing that course back when I was still in Central Arkansas. And they actually used things like Pix4D and all these different kind of applications and used drones to be able to do things like recreate automobile accidents and to map those out for investigations was just a really cool application. So, we've actually got on our staff, we've got a 22-year fire captain that used them before. And a lot of things, you'll find yourself in careers, but in the 107 in particular, the drone experience could be a separator. So students, if you're listening, that's just another thing that can differentiate yourself because the field is competitive. So having something that shows that you can commit to something and pass that course is a really cool thing. For us, healthcare is the big thing right now. So we've done some recent partnerships. Anybody familiar with Tangier Island? Anybody? So it's 17 miles off the coast of Virginia, and we are using actually a different aircraft than we deliver with to fly out there because one of the biggest struggles on the island is getting medical supplies. So we've developed some grants that are funding that testing, and we actually completed that proof of concept not too long ago, and it's been super successful. We also are using the DBX ecosystem, partnered with Carillion Clinics, and they're actually setting up miles off-site and then delivering within that Carillion Clinic network for, and it's been proof of concept so far, but it's going to be medical supplies and all those things.
That's awesome.
Yep.
And then my last question, something that's near and dear to my heart. Walmart happens to be the most attacked commercial network out there. From a cybersecurity perspective, we've had some recent cybersecurity issues here in Northwest Arkansas. How do you guys ensure, especially as you more tightly integrate with the Walmart network, the safety of that network?
Yeah, so right now a lot of that is on us. Once we integrate into Walmart e-commerce, which is coming, that's going to change, right? And I'm sure a lot of that on the outside of the aircraft side will be on the Walmart side when it comes to purchases, because eventually they'll just hand us the product and we'll throw it on the aircraft and we'll fly it. In the meantime, and this is where it gets hard for me because Lane's like, don't tell them what you actually do. So
I don't know if there's any hackers out here.
Yeah, so yeah, we don't want you guys hacking a drone, right? Or I say you guys, you know what I mean. But the idea is we've actually got, everybody in our organization knows Heather Rollins because she is the captain of the team when it comes to cybersecurity. And she is on it regularly with training, updates, tests. It's actually kind of funny. We've got a few people that are like scared to check their email because, phishing attacks and things like that. So I think that's what I can say to that is the amount of focus that our company has put into that side of the house has been the most I've ever experienced, hands down. She's done a great job.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you for that. I'm going to open it up to any other questions from the Connor. Connor has a question.
Thanks. Hey, Chad.
Hi.
I guess it's a two-parter. Take it where you will. So I'm curious, at what ratios do you get your price per delivery where you want it? Is it 1 to 5? Is it 1 to 20? And then kind of what are the big levers there outside of just that ratio?
Yeah.
And then maybe broadening that out. What do you think the variables will be that Wing and DroneUp and Zipline and the rest of the NANA are competing over? Is it going to break down region? Like, what is the when you think about your moat.
The differentiator kind of thing.
Yeah,
Sure.
differentiator. And I know now it's hard because, there's a railing there from the FAA, and
Yeah.
everybody's trying to get your ops, but if you think about 5 years from now,
Yeah.
what do you discover?
So as far as the scale goes, we just recently completed a 500 delivery in a day capacity test, right? So I believe that was 10 aircraft going, and obviously, so we're not operating one-to-many yet. We are in the testing areas in Virginia, but that's banging out some flights, guys. That is one after another. Our goal right now in the field is to get to 200. And that's, I don't know if that's the exact number for $7, but it's all about stepping stones, right?
But does the total volume, I assume that there's some implied ratio of operator to flight.
Sure.
Is that, what drives your unit cost down, I guess?
Yeah, so scale. So like that's the easy answer, right? So me being able to fly that 5, 10, 30, and those all, aircraft at a time, that's what Uncrew does a great job of, is our operators become, instead of worrying about every single detail of that flight, so much more, because we're 98% autonomous right now. Our guys, we click 3 buttons, they are there for when things go wrong, but they've got to have the details of that flight to know what and if something is wrong. Autonomy is really the answer there, is getting this thing to where we're more air traffic controllers, so you get to that 5, 10, 30, instead of, I've got to do this, this, and this for this flight to be successful.
Do you think you're profitable in 25?
I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to make money, so I'm like, let's get it 30, like let's get it going. So I don't know the exact answer to that. I know Tom Walker does.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Now, differentiate, right? So everybody's really focused on aircraft, which we are too, don't get me wrong. But what we've implemented into that is the proprietary software, which I'm sure, I know those guys have got things as well. But that DBX ecosystem, that infrastructure, have you guys seen our hubs, like here in Pinnacle Hills and things like that? So it's a storage container essentially that's been, refabricated to suit our needs. So imagine a structure just like that, ground-based infrastructure, but it's got a convertible top, it's got a robotic arm, everything's autonomous inside. Aircraft comes in, lands on the deck, loads a package, that new Sebastian Lynch comes in, grabs the package, stuffs it back up, and takes it. That DBX infrastructure does not need me there, right? So that means that you can come in, you put that package in, we come and we pick it up via the aircraft, and then we take it somewhere else. So that removes having to have the hubs everywhere. You strategically place these infrastructures in different places, and now you're scaling that out as well. And that's something that we're super excited about. The people who are partnered with us are super excited about, because it doesn't just open us up for Walmart delivery, it allows quick service restaurants and convenience stores to get involved as well. And that's where that business really starts to scale and drive.
So, still that regurgitated back, basically like your volume divided by your ground infrastructure, and you can estimate that volume, cloud kitchen versus your hubs or your new model, and that's kind of how, that's just what GP over the next few years, like how to shrink the ground game and maintain volume.
Yeah, so we're gonna need, there's gonna be some ebb and flow as far as the people side of it. Like, we always talk about autonomy and having to move towards autonomy, but as we scale, we're actually gonna need more people, not less people. But if those more people are delivering, 200 deliveries a day, or eventually 500 deliveries a day, well then that multiplier and that divider changes, right? So that's really that's how we win this thing. I say win, I'm pretty competitive, so, don't quote me on that, but I'm trying. Yes, sir.
How do you guys, or I think it's more of an industry issue, multi-tenant locations that don't have the nice yard that some of us have, or the front yards? How is the industry, or DroneUp specifically, looking to solve those types of challenges?
Sure. So I think long-term is the DBX. Long-term, I think it's that DBX to where you strategically place that for a multi-unit housing system, and it changes it. We deliver to the Pinnacle Heights complex on a semi-regular basis. And to be honest with you, like having that ability to deliver to like an apartment and things like that, I thought, and I'm just gonna be honest, I guess.
I think honesty is the best.
Yeah, I thought that would like explode. But I think there was some barrier for entry there. I think a lot of it has to do with understanding that we're on a different website right now. I think once we go to e-commerce integration and those guys can see that, hey, I can go online just to the Walmart website and order this. I think that'll change things for the multi-unit housing areas as well. But it hasn't been as big of a hit yet, but I think it will be. And I think that DBX is gonna be that game changer because those people are used to going to those boxes where they can get their packages and things like that. That's a staple of apartment living right now. You mix a drone into that, and I think it takes off. Sorry, a little hungry. My first, I think. Yes, sir.
So I got a couple of questions, and we'll probably run out of time. Chad, what I'm interested in on, so the reason that everybody's interested in the pilot in North Texas is because you have three disparate drone companies self-separating themselves. But the thing I think is a challenge coming here is there aren't any non-participators in the Class B Corps in North Texas. When the wing gets here, there's non-participators everywhere, manned and unmanned aircraft, and a ton of drone flights. People will be amazed how many individual drones, I know you are aware, but I'm very aware of how many there are going on all the time. So what's the because remote ID is not the answer, what is the answer, or where's DroneUp going with the others in these areas like here where it's about non-participators?
So I'll answer it as best as I can. Okay, so the detect and avoid systems, DAA, right? So that is being implemented literally as we speak, and then ADSB in and ADSB out. So right now, we can turn our system on to where we can see all the aircraft in the area. And then eventually it's going to be required, like you mentioned, if you guys know remote ID, that's what puts our information out to the rest of the airspace. So I think really one of the biggest things, UTM, unmanned traffic management, is a huge talking point, and nobody, if I had the answer, I would not be talking to you guys right now, right? So I'd be somewhere else at some other conference. But yeah, it's a big deal, and I think it will eventually take collaboration from all parties involved, right? And a lot of testing and a lot of information, and I don't know about system sharing, but eventually for the DAA systems and things like that, we got to be on the same page. We've done a little bit of deconfliction stuff in Utah before, and there's a lot of human factor involved in that. Scale-wise, that's not the answer, right? So yeah, I hope that somewhat answers.
Yeah, I think it's the FAA's problem.
Sure.
They've done a horrible job on remote ID, and I can tell my friends in the FAA they've done a bad job.
I'll tell you this, we had an awesome visit from the FAA in Denville the other day. And a lot of that's going to have to be attitude change as well when it comes to managing the airspace from the manned side as well. Because we're an aircraft also, and we're in the airspace also. And as long as we're following the rules and we're there first, you got to respect it. So I think that a lot of that's going to be attitude change on the human factor as well. But to your point about the number of drone flights that there are going to be, we're definitely going to have more aircraft in the air, not less. And guys, it is coming real quick. And that's a good thing. I like my job.
And if I can follow up with just
Sure.
So the complexity of modeling. So right now, the model on negative delivery, you're trying to go to e-commerce. There's a lot of those where someone, because of the novelty of it, you're doing it because you're trying to use use cases to make the safety case. Makes sense. Someone wants to deliver it one block from the hub.
Sure.
Makes no sense though, you put a kid on bicycles and all this expensive,
Yep.
so why don't you do that? Well, but the complexity of the model, store 100 is a perfect example. That model, 5 blocks away, to ask for that delivery at 7:30 in the morning on Walton Boulevard, it makes sense to do it by air. Not so much at 11, not so
Sure.
much at 9 at night. So where's DroneUp and the others with the complexity of building the models on when the ROI makes sense on time,
Sure.
location, et cetera?
So I'm like the guy that monitors the numbers and sees that stuff because I've got to understand hiring and I've got to understand scheduling. because I'm responsible for the operation, right? So that is a constant thing that we're digging into, and it will determine. Right now, I'd say where we're at is that is what's determining our manpower, our understanding of what's our hours of operation going to be. At 6 o'clock in Northwest Arkansas, these guys are flooded with orders. At 8 a.m., not so much. But once people start to figure out, hey, if I need something at 8 a.m., it takes me 20 minutes easy to get down Walton Boulevard. It's going to take our aircraft 4.5 minutes to get there. One of the commitments that we have to Walmart is to deliver. Once we get that package after integration, we're going to be there in 15 minutes. Right now, we sit between 9 to 11 minutes, and that's with a 3-mile range. So we're going to knock it out of the park. Once people start understanding that it's not novelty and that it's a life-changing kind of deal, I think that really happens. And that's to go back, like when we talk about the delivery and the use cases of the people, to touch on that, those people that have done 100 orders, they don't care about the drone anymore. What do they care about? They care about getting their product. And that's what, for me, as a believer in the process that I've seen, that's probably been the coolest thing, is people not caring about the aircraft. And it's just, how does this benefit me, like you mentioned. But we look into that stuff on a regular basis, and that's the final, the operational decisions are a little bit above me, but how it affects our daily stuff is with hiring, manpower, scheduling, those kind of things. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
I've got 2 questions, if that's okay. Question number 1, you talked a lot about how a lot of people started doing this as novel.
Sure.
Whatever. So question was, what's been the conversion rate of those customers to customers who are starting to use it more for utility and less for novelty?
Sure.
And then question 2 is, I think you guys are operating a 1 mile, 3 mile radius?
3 mile radius.
As people start using it for more utility, and I need a whole bunch of an entire bag of groceries.
Happens right now, yeah.
The load is starting to get heavier and heavier, so the range,
How do you make it happen?
yeah, how can you, what is the maximum theoretical radius right now that you could possibly go while delivering meaningful?
Yeah, so up to 7.4 pounds at 3 miles would be the maximum payload for that. Okay. Once we go 135 and we change some things, we get to dictate what that is. So we're actually going to add at least 10 pounds to that total all of weight. That means boxes are probably going to change. And right now we're at 12 by 8 by 8 box. You'd be stunned, I think, if you knew how much testing went into a box change, right? Because remember, we got to keep that box on an aircraft. It's kind of a big deal, right? So that answers that question. And then repeat customers, we're at over 70%. So, and what's awesome about that is think about how many unique customers we're getting as an evolving startup process and product to people, and we're over 70%. So it's been cool to see unique customers becoming repeat customers and sticking with us. And again, I haven't said it yet, that's a testament to our pilots. These guys are awesome. They have flown through so much and been able to overcome tons and tons of challenges and still maintain uptime and their commitment to safety. So much throughout this process has fallen on them. So shout out to our pilots and our LEs.
So right now with that 3 mile radius, does that mean it's within 3 miles of a Walmart location?
Our hub, yep.
Your hub,
Yep.
you'd be able to deliver, so
Correct.
to cover an entire city, say,
Sure.
you'd need that many.
Yeah, multiple, right? So, and that's for in Dallas right now, we've got 11 hubs, throwing some DBXs and all of a sudden start blanketing coverage of an area. Yep.
Yeah, you mentioned about, I think from a consumer standpoint, you mentioned that the service is free now, but it won't always be.
Oh, we need to come back to that. Thank you.
So,
You're
as
about out of
far
time,
as,
so
Sorry.
as far as conversions, where do you see your customer base, maintaining?
Sure.
After you start charging?
Yeah, so that is going to be a Walmart thing for sure. Are you a Walmart Plus customer? Are you just a regular customer? And once we go to integrate, that totally becomes on them. And then we switch to, because right now we're kind of responsible for everything, right? Our guys have got customers, they've delivered, they've done all these things. Once we go to integration, we will still provide the same things we do from just professionalism standpoint, those kind of things. But our job is all about getting that package and throwing it on the aircraft and getting it there. But I don't think Walmart has any apprehension about losing customers once it integrates because the value is going to be there. Now, price point, I don't know.
Last one.
Chad, can you speak to the community engagement efforts? For example, I have to imagine there's a subset of the population, perhaps because of advanced age, it may become more and more unsafe for them to drive and go pick something up themselves. But perhaps they just aren't aware that this is now a service that's available.
Yeah, so we get walk-ups and people asking questions and what are you guys doing out here? And that's where the pilots have really come in because like they decided to pilot. They didn't realize they were going to end up being ambassadors for the entire UAS industry, and they've done a remarkable job. And our hub leaders have generated that culture and really championed it because they're passionate about what they do. So that education piece is pretty constant. It has been a rapid evolution and change in the 2 years from the people who didn't know what we're doing, and that line of questioning has changed, and it is so much more about when do I get it instead of, it used to be, what are you guys even doing? Now it's when do I get it? How do I do it? I want this. And that's been a cool thing to see, and that's with really all populations. And some of our most interested people have been older people, because they do see that value.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Chad, for all the knowledge. I think many of us have seen these drones flying around, and so now we have a little more background. And thanks to everybody for coming and attending. And I bet if you look Chad up, he'll answer your questions afterward as well.
Yeah, you told me you'd give me app, and here we are. So
yeah, that's a gift.
yeah. So my wife will just figure it out.
All right.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, it's up to you. I'm just. You have food now?